Welcome to the second episode of What is Life with Dee'Anna Alyse. I am your host, Dee'Anna Alyse, and on this podcast we discuss adulting, mental health, and what's going on in this wacky world we live in. So today we back outside with it. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I'm a little turnt. I done had a nice little margarita. I'm really chilling. It's Sunday. But I will be releasing this on a Tuesday because I'm considering having themed days. So y'all know, what to expect on a certain day. I'm really trying to figure out this podcasting thing. It's really fun, y'all. This is really, really fun. And I think sometimes it's really fun because can't nobody talk back. Is that crazy? Is that weird? It's kind of nice being a certified yapper and having the ability to record a conversation where I don't get no rebuttals. Now, I want rebuttals. I want feedback. I want to hear what you guys think, what you guys are feeling, what you guys, what's going on in your brains when y'all hear what I got to say. I do want to know, but it's kind of nice to just be able to get my thought out in full without an interruption. Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, I just had to get that out. I really had to get that out. But this is not going to be a long episode today. And the reason is because I'm trying to relax. I'm actually trying to relax. And sometimes relaxing is a lot harder than I think it's supposed to be. And I want to kind of dive into why I think that is today. I grew up in the South, right? No. Okay, guys. Keep in mind, I'm outside. I don't know what my neighbor's doing, okay? Sound like they having a good old time next door. I ain't never heard them play music like this. But here we are. Anyway, I grew up in the South in a very conservative, very Christian, very, very busybody family, right? I come from a family of doctors, teachers, lawyers. Shit, I think one of my cousins was like a mayor or something, a governor. I clearly need to pay attention to my family a little bit more. But somebody was in some form of the government, Everybody in my family don't play about themselves. They don't play about their legacy. They don't play about how they present. So, with that being said, I grew up with absolutely no excuses. There was no room for error. There was very little room, in my opinion. I think my family might say differently. But speaking as the person growing up, okay, I felt like, even though I did make mistakes, I'm not saying I didn't. But what I'm saying is the pressure to not make a mistake was very intense. And I think the times where I either found myself making a mistake or I allowed myself to make a mistake, it was truly an act of rebellion. And then usually an act of rebellion, I would either really, really, really regret or not fully understand why I even felt the desire to do that thing, right? And I say that because I had such a desire to be a good girl. And that's a whole nother episode. But if you know what I mean by that, you know what I mean by that. I had such a desire to live up to these kind of unspoken expectations in my family because I saw everybody else being so excellent, being so brilliant. I wanted to match that. I wanted to ensure that I carried on this image of greatness because I am great. I come from great, so why would I not be great, right? I grew up the kid who was in gifted classes. I grew up the kid who was so good around adults, but really struggled socially around people my own age. I grew up the kid who really didn't get in trouble that much. I was not sneaking out my house. The most kind of rules I was breaking was reading when I wasn't supposed to be reading, or eating excessive amounts of candy, stealing candy. Oh my God, I would steal so much candy as a kid. I really think that's on the teachers though, because why are you in a classroom full of children and you got candy in my line of view. Like, that's crazy to me. I just think if you don't want no kids trying to take your candy, you shouldn't have no candy. But whatever. Anyway, the point is, I came up on a track that should have propelled me to greatness, right? You know, I did college prep in high school. Mind you, I was gifted all through high school, with the exception of 8th grade, because I'm not that great at math. I'm getting better. But because I wasn't good at math, I also... Hold on, y'all. My mom is calling. I very much grew up, like, prepared, in a sense, to be like the rest of my family. But the thing is, I wasn't like the rest of my family. And when I say that, I mean, there were so many things about me in comparison to my other family members that made it harder for me to take the paths that they laid out in front of me, in regards to schooling, in regards to socializing. I didn't know I was neurodivergent, and neither did they. So because of that, I would have moments of recognizing that I was a bit of a workaholic, and I just thought that that was kind of normal. It really wasn't until I got to college, like my freshman year, where I was around other people my age in, like, you know, very tight quarters. I'm living with roommates. I'm making friends in other dorms. I'm making friends off campus. And something that my friends in college consistently told me was that I needed to chill out, right? And most of that came from the fact that, like, I very rarely took a second to myself. Like, I was always doing something. I was always on the go. When I was in college, I was actually such an aggressive YouTuber. And when I say an aggressive YouTuber, I mean, like, I was filming vlogs for a reality show, which was also titled What is Life? And also making content for my YouTube channel separate from that reality show. I was also a photographer, an aspiring celebrity photographer at that. Not necessarily paparazzi, but I wanted to go to events and, like, take really nice portraits, like, in action, you know, event photography. What else was I doing? I was going to castings a lot for acting, for modeling. I mean, I was back in dance class. I was doing so much. It was kind of ridiculous. And I was going to protests. And I was going to, little pop-up shops and, surprise concerts, the Vivo recording of LMA in Brooklyn. Like, I was on the go. I was really, really on the go. And then on top of that, I wasn't even really sleeping. And it's kind of crazy how I even found out a little nigga was neurodivergent. And it happened after I dropped out of my freshman year of college. I was really, really struggling. I'll get into the reason why later. But the point is, I was really, really struggling my freshman year. So I made the ultimate decision to leave college, but I knew I still wanted to be in New York. And I told my family I was going back, right? When I moved back to New York, my family helped me enroll in Upright Citizens Brigade, which, if you guys don't know what that is, UCB is a school for improv. Like, if you want to learn how to be a better comedic actor or a comedian, that is one of the schools you could go to. I know they're under some heat right now. I don't know what they thought. We're not even gonna get into that. But the point is, I went to UCB, and while I was there, I just noticed that I was having a really rough time emotionally. And part of that had to do with it being around the time of the year that I remember my father's passing. Again, this is something that I can get into on a later episode. But The point is, I was really struggling mentally and emotionally. And while I was explaining to the counselor that they had provided to us at the school, I'm telling her about certain things that I'm doing and the frequency of which I'm doing these things. And she just got really, really quiet with me. Nice white lady. And she looked me in my eyes and said, so I'm going to tell you something. And I was like, okay. And she goes, you sound just like me. And I looked at her a little confused because, girl, I'm coming to you for help. What does me sounding like you have anything to do with me needing help? But she goes on to explain that she's bipolar. And I'm sitting there a little shell-shocked because this woman has no idea that bipolar disorder runs in my family, on my mom's side, specifically her father, right? She doesn't have my health records. This is not like a psychic, this is a random counselor lady that I'm dealing with. And when she says that to me, so many thoughts and feelings ran through my body, like in a split second. I just felt very at a standstill. I felt kind of like frozen in time, like, oh my God, it's happening, right? And I remember leaving after she gave me some resources that she wanted me to take advantage of. She recommended me to an institute to get checked out. And I remember going in the hallway before going back into my classroom and calling my mom. And I was just like, oh my God, Mommy, this could be real, right? And I bring this up while I'm talking about the importance of relaxing because I think it's really important for us to really have a deeper understanding of self before we start trying to relax. And I say that because the way you relax really is dependent on your body, your mind, your nervous system. So what might be relaxing to one person may not be relaxing to you, and that doesn't mean there's something wrong with the method of relaxation. It just means that you need to find something else to do. That's it, right? So part of me breaking down my neurodivergence and looking at my struggle with just being, I had to, first of all, go back to my childhood and take a second and look at why I feel the desire or the need to be on go or to be productive in the ways that I feel like I need to be productive. Because basically what I told the lady, the counselor, was that I was essentially running on fumes. So let me break down what my schedule was like during that time. I had just got my first big girl job in New York, right? I was working on Fifth Ave. Woo! Okay, fabuloso. I was working at Anthropology as a 20-year-old. I was only 20. And living in a house with like 8 other girls. This is really my first time doing adult stuff by myself. So most of the time my schedule would look like waking up around 5:30 in the morning. No. I'm lying. About 4:45 I would wake up so I could get ready between 4:45 and about 5:30. Why? Because I got to be at work by like 7 something to open the store. So the train ride from where I lived in Queens to Manhattan on a good day, about an hour and some change. On a bad day, it's giving like an hour and 15, which doesn't sound bad, but when you're thinking about actually clocking in for work, walking from the train station to your job, it was just a lot. And again, I was very unaware of my neurodivergence, so I didn't even know what time blindness was. I was trying so hard to not be late. But that also looked like, because I'm waking up so early and I'm rushing myself to get ready, 9 times out of 10, I'm not eating anything. So I'm starting my day, no food, working until my lunch break, going to Five Guys down the street from Anthropology, getting some French fries, going back to work, like literally just French fries. I'm not even getting a burger. I'm just getting fucking French fries. Going back to work, closing, 9 times out of 10, I'm closing, or just getting off in the evening. Then I'm going to the gym to work out for a good 2 hours. Now, mind you, if I'm closing, that means I'm probably in the gym until about, if I get out of work at like 10 something, I'm at the gym until about midnight. And then I'm leaving the gym to get back on the train to come home. I probably get home around 2-ish, 2 a.m. I come home, I make me a nice little stir fry with some rice and some turkey and some peppers and broccoli. And then I get in my bed and I start working on whatever content I haven't finished working on that week. Not that day, that week. Now I'm falling asleep. It's like 3:30. I got to be back up at 4:45. Depending on what my schedule is looking like. It wasn't like that all week. But if I had back-to-back days, that's what my day looked like back-to-back. And notice how nowhere in that day I'm talking about talking to friends, talking to family. It's just go, 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 right? I lost like, I want to say like 30 pounds in 1 month just because of how I was eating and how I was moving. And though it wasn't essentially or inherently bad, it wasn't something that I was going to be able to maintain long term. And about a year later, I moved into a completely new place with some different friends. And I remember a roommate coming into my room one day. I'm, once again, working on content. I'm editing. I'm really locked in. I think it was probably like middle of the afternoon. It wasn't even crazy for real. But my roommate came in my room and he just like, standing in the doorframe looking at me. And he was like, man, Dee'Anna, you need to relax. And I remember looking at him and being like, why? Why do I need to relax? I feel like I can go harder and I want to go harder. So like, what's wrong? And what was wrong was the fact that I didn't feel safe to relax. I thought that the busier I was, the more productive I was, the closer it would put me to success. And truth be told, you can't just overwork yourself into a successful place. And I get that the internet and other people might tell you differently because they'll talk about consistency, they'll talk about dedication, they'll talk about all of these things. But what they're not going to talk about is the fact that if you don't get enough rest, you can literally have like a heart attack. You can actually work yourself so down to the bone, your body cannot support you anymore. Therefore, you can't work. You can't keep going. And I actually experienced that crash. And I didn't know how to feel other than just devastated, disappointed, gutted. Because I did it to me. Nobody else did that to me. I did that to me. I ran my own body down. And now I can comfortably say I recognize why. And it's because I was fully in survival and hyper independence. And if you haven't been told this yet, let me let you know right now. Hyper independence is a trauma response. a lot of me doing things the way that I did them at the frequency that I was doing it at stemmed from seeing a lack of help around me, a lack of support. I found myself really like in this mentality that I was the only one that could do what I knew how to do. Nobody could do it better than me. Nobody could even help me. Nobody even knew how to help me. Therefore, I'm the only one that could do this. Ain't no point in asking nobody for help because they don't even know what the fuck I'm trying to do. They don't even know how I'm doing what the fuck I'm doing. And I don't got no time to slow down and teach you what the fuck I'm doing. I'd rather you just be able to pick that shit up and supplement whatever it is that I'm not doing. But that's not your average bear, you know? Like, that's not anybody's average experience of just seeing somebody doing something and being able to naturally pick that up, pick up the slack, and support them. Though that would be really, really nice. It's just not typical. And because I wasn't recognizing that I was experiencing this hyper-independent version of myself, I'm just thinking, well, this is what my family did. This is what my mom did. This is what my grandfather did. Like, okay, this is what I need to do too. I need to get it by myself. I need to do this by myself. There's this quote that I really, really love that I heard while I was in college. And I don't remember who said it, but it says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, bring somebody with you. And I'm paraphrasing. That might not be exactly how it's said, but that's how it's stuck in my brain. And recognizing that my hyper-independence stemmed from me experiencing a lack of support, I can't blame myself for not really knowing how to relax. Because in my mind, I'm thinking at that time, if I relax right now, I'm going to be wasting time that I could be investing in myself to give myself more time to relax later. It's not like I don't want to relax, but I wanted to relax when I thought it made sense. And I think we, as Gen Zers, if you're listening to this and you're anywhere from 1995 to what is that, 2000, 2001? I don't really know. I don't really pay attention to anybody below 1997. So, if you're anywhere in like your shit, you should probably be in your late 20s right now if you're a Gen Zer, right? Or like early to late 20s is Gen Z, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like you kind of understand that feeling of, oh my God, I lost what I was trying to say that fast. And you know, in this moment, I'm going to give myself some grace. I'm going to give myself a lot of grace in this moment because that happens so often. So we're just going to move on. We're just going to move on because I actually don't remember the point that I was going to make. Ugh, I hate that for myself. But you know what? That brings me to my next point. Your ancestors need you to chill out. Ancestors need you to chill out. Like, even this right now, guys, I'm recording this podcast on my computer because I have now an issue with procrastinating, which is so funny. But now I'm like, too chill. My computer's on 6%. My charger hasn't been working. And I was like, nah. We gonna get this off real fast, right? When I say your ancestors need you to chill, I mean, if you are a minority, right? If you're not a minority, and let me make it a little bit more specific. Since I can't speak for all minorities, I am just a Black queer femme, you know? And with that being said, I think about my ancestors. I think about a lot of the people that came before me and what they came through. in order for me to experience the life that I am currently experiencing. And taking it all the way back to slavery, there was no resting for slaves. Even on days where they weren't really having much expected of them, they still was on guard. Their body was still primed for anything happening at any moment. And when I think about that, and I think about moments that I feel that, and I remind myself that trauma is passed down through the blood, it can be something that you accumulate through experiences that you have on your own. But I think it's also important to remind people that a lot of trauma that you're experiencing, a lot of trauma that you've come through or that you're going through, some of that isn't even just your trauma. Sometimes it's trauma that came from things your mom went through, things your grandmother went through, things your father went through. It's really, really kind of crazy how trauma stays in the body. And I now look at resting as such a rebellious act, because everything around us is pushing us towards this hustle culture mentality. And though I'm not saying there's anything wrong with hustling, get it how you need to get it, okay? Do your big one. Ain't nobody telling you to be a lazy bum, okay? Because I love to work. I love working. But I like doing things that don't really feel like work, but it might look like work to somebody else because they don't do what I do. They don't know how to do what I do. Therefore, it's going to look like work to them. For me, it's just fun. I love doing. Period, point blank. That's not the problem. The problem is the reason why I'm doing. You know? What is the root? And the reason why I say that I look at resting as a rebellious act in this day and age, in this time that we're living through, the world would want you to feel like if you even take a second to just smell the roses, to take a nap, you have blundered the rest of your future. Everybody says, you know, the world don't stop just because you do. That feels like a lot. That really feels like a lot. And though the world won't stop if you do, you still need to stop sometimes. You do. You need time to sit with what you've just experienced. I had a moment with a coach the other day where I was telling her how I was feeling like I wasn't getting enough time to process what I was experiencing. And she told me that my homework was to relax, which I thought I was doing really good at, but surprisingly, it's been a little more difficult than expected. And it's only because I'm trying to prove something to somebody outside of myself. I can admit it. I feel like I have something to prove to my family. I feel like I have something to prove to my ex, which is crazy. Oh my God. I just said that. But like, for real, I do. Doesn't make it true. But it is important for me to identify, shit, I feel that. And what am I going to do about that? Let me tell you. What I'm going to do about that is to remind myself that resting is a privilege that I actually have full right to take advantage of. Resting is restorative. How about that? Resting is restorative. You need to rest in order to restore your body so that it can operate like fully, functionally. You got to think about that. When you're burning the candle at both ends consistently, how functional do you really think your body is going to be? It's not. It's not. Just because you can operate on 2 hours of sleep doesn't mean you should. And I'm saying this to myself, okay? I'm not fussing at you, but if I'm a little loud, I'm sorry. Not really, but hello, somebody gotta say it. Somebody has to say it. Somebody has to say it. I am no longer girl boss, okay? I'm girl tired. I'm girl tired, okay? I'm girl worn out. And I can be a boss and be worn out, but golly, I do not think that all the time I need to be doing something. And sometimes I feel because we don't look at resting as a privilege, we don't understand the gravity of it. It makes me think about, and this might be a little something, but it makes me think about people in war-stricken and more oppressed countries than mine, like the Congo, Sudan, Palestine, Haiti. The list goes on. But the point that I'm trying to get at is that I'm not in the same kind of position as other people who are deep in survival mode as well. And I'm not saying this to dismiss my experience inside of survival mode. And I think it's important, not necessarily to compare, but to just be realistic about what you're going through. Like, really take a second and just think about what you're experiencing for real, just for a second. And then ask yourself if the level that you're operating on is one that you can sustain or maintain. And be honest with yourself about whatever that answer is. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, you're probably not being honest with other people around you. Therefore, if you find yourself crashing out or spiraling into a place that you've never been before, or you have been before and you thought you could get out of it, but this time is a little bit different, and you're like, oh my God, how did I get here? Because you didn't listen to yourself, because you weren't honest with yourself, because you couldn't be honest with yourself, you weren't honest with other people, therefore you couldn't get the support that you needed. Because you couldn't be honest with yourself about where you are. Relaxing is not a crime. I know this is kind of all over the place, but relaxing is not a crime. It is an honor and a privilege that should never, ever be taken for granted. And the sooner that we can give ourselves grace and remind ourselves that resting is equally as important as being on go, I think we'll be able to be our best selves, the truest definition of our best selves, because we're honoring ourselves. All right, I don't want to talk y'all heads off. I think this was pretty decent. Let me know what you guys think. I don't even know if there are comments below. I'm not posting the video anytime soon, so if you have the audio that you're just listening to on whatever platform, definitely reach out to me on Instagram at What Is Life with D. That's 2 E's in my name, or in the Instagram name. DM me, comment on any of my posts, and let me know what you think about this episode. And I look forward to the next time I get to talk to y'all on What Is Life with little old me, Dee'Anna Alyse. All right, I'll talk to y'all soon, hopefully. Bye.